So, as you know, maybe we've answered this as part of our conversation already, but internationally, mediation is extremely popular. In certain aspects, more than others, maybe claims for damages in construction claims. People have, or in professional liability claims, actually, it's a big thing. So internationally, mediation has proved to be extremely successful. In India, one would think, given the number of litigation we have, given the complex court systems we have, given the amount of commerce and trade that is happening between states and countries, and amongst companies internally, one would think that mediation would have become extremely popular. And also, along with the fact that civil litigation in our country could take anything between 10 and 20 years, optimistic. So one would think mediation would have been, the right way to go, but it still hasn't picked up. So what, in your view, is the one or two factors that are lacking in our country to be able to drive mediation to the platform that it actually, or the stature that it actually deserves?
Yeah, I have really thought about this very hard and deep, to the extent I am able to, because this is what is our challenge today, to make mediation popular, to take the message of mediation deeper into our companies and into our stakeholders. And I have come up with 2 or 3 points of realization internally, and there may be others. So this may not be exclusive. This may be even not fully correct, but I will voice them nevertheless. And this is something that is very important to determine, because if we know why is mediation not becoming popular today in India with all its potential, with all its advantages. If we know the root causes why it is not becoming popular, then only we will be able to address them. And if we do the wrong identification of root causes, we'll be barking up the wrong tree. So this is very important to discuss this, deliberate on this, and to figure out what really are the causes. And I am just putting in my own 2 penny worth of thoughts in response to your question. The first one is, I think, something that everyone will agree. Lack of awareness about the simplicity and elegance and advantages of mediations, activities. And the lack of awareness about the fact that there are no downsides in mediation. You don't lose anything by trying mediation. So this is the point number 1, which I think everybody will agree. There will be a consensus that, this lack of awareness is something that has to be brought home. Something that has to be, this awareness has to be built up. The second one could be a little bit controversial, but I would like your views on that. Is about the myths around mediation. There is a whole set of people who will, at the drop of a hat, the moment you mention mediation, they will come up with certain questions, and the questions are on these predictable lines. And you, being from the legal fraternity, will be able to probably relate and answer these. The first question will be on jurisdiction. What's your jurisdiction? What's my jurisdiction? How can you do mediation in Bombay, or how can you do mediation in Timbuktu? And that discussion never ends. You just get into that tunnel, and you are in that tunnel perpetually. The second one is about the clause. Oh, my contract didn't have a mediation clause. It has an arbitration clause, so I have to do arbitration. How can I do mediation? So this is the second myth. And these myths are, mind you, perpetrated by quite educated and knowledgeable people. You can't go on telling them that a clause of arbitration in your contract nevertheless doesn't prevent you from doing mediation as a precursor to arbitration, because mediation is all by mutual concurrence. This third myth is, how do I get a decree on my mediation settlement? How do I implement my mediation settlement? How do I ensure that the settlement is going to be honored? This is another myth, because mediation itself, by virtue of its principles, is something that happens that starts only when both the parties agree to start it, and ends also only when both the parties agree to end it at a given point, with or without an agreed settlement. Now, if we sign up on an agreed settlement, there will be only the very rare occasions and rare circumstances when somebody will go around violating that settlement. So again, to my mind, there has been no need for any complexity around decree and settlement. Although, of course, the Geneva Convention is all about that, trying to make sure that it happens, etc., etc. But this, nevertheless, is still a myth. The number of number of cases that we have settled, dispute that we have settled in mediation, we haven't had the need to go to court to take a decree. Those have been consummated, those have been settled, paid, and delivered. I'm not saying that there are hundreds, but there are at least in tens. And another myth, and this probably will be the last myth that I'll talk about, is about cost. People will think or will project without knowing that mediation is as costly as arbitration or litigation, if not even more costlier. So nobody will ask a question about what is the cost and fact that this is not about number of meetings, number of hearings, and things like that, and how cheap and cost competitive it is. But the myth is spread.
Right.
So this is something where your inputs also will be useful. And the last one is that, and this is very, very contentious, that the leaders who are managing companies and businesses today, who are taking decisions in improving profits, improving revenues, reducing costs, and maintaining business relationships and growing the business, resolving conflicts and disputes, therefore, these people are not being advised correctly. And I will keep it silent, who is advising and who is not advising. So this is now over to you.
Got the hint. I got the hint, and I don't mind biting the bullet.
Yeah.
So firstly, I completely agree. I think these arguments about jurisdiction, costs, timelines, all of this is a matter of one, awareness, and secondly, a matter of being self-centered. I've had the occasion, and unfortunately so, notice that several lawyers don't want to recommend mediation, largely on account of the fact that it's a situation where, so if a lawyer gets a civil litigation, it is an annuity process, in the sense he's taken care of in terms of fees for the next few years. Mediation is short term. So from this myopic view, unfortunately, lawyers are not able to wholeheartedly, in many cases, recommend mediation. I, of course, I'm of the firm belief and keep telling people that if you are able to ensure that disputes are resolved quickly, if you are able to ensure that disputes are reduced, the amount of trade, the amount of commerce that will happen in the country, the amount of investments that will happen in the country will ensure that everything that has been taken away by civil litigation in terms of fees for lawyers will be given back multifold by just the extent of work that will come up in trade, commerce, and other avenues, including mediation. I mean, mediation. A lot of people today don't get into litigation being upset, afraid that they will not have the time or the money. In mediation, there is no requirement to have that apprehension. You know within the first 2-3 months whether you have a solution or not. So I think spreading awareness amongst litigants and amongst lawyers, who are in many cases the friends and the guides of the promoters or the owners of businesses, is extremely important. So to have lawyers and others in the legal fraternity being your advocates to promote mediation is an important.